Okay, so we have three things we wanted to update you on. The first is just what we've seen so far in terms of the responses to the survey that we've had out for feedback on the master plan issues. Then I wanted to give you an update on where we are in terms of organizing a series of open houses to get some additional public engagement, public feedback. And then the third thing would be a little bit of an update on your feedback on a resolution to create some work groups to help provide some recommendations to you on specific topics moving forward. So I'll turn it over to Hannah to start us off with the survey responses.
Thanks, Daphne. So as Daphne mentioned, we currently have 2 surveys out right now to collect feedback for the master plan. The one that I'm going to be going over the responses for is specifically the multiple choice survey. The other survey is kind of more of a long form survey where respondents can type out their answers to different questions, but just more long form. So for the multiple choice survey and the long form survey, the purpose of both surveys are to obtain high-level feedback to help identify what issues the master plan needs to focus on. Specifically looking at the multiple choice survey and answer options, we created these question and answers based on the discussions we had with you all and the county commissioners at those work session meetings, as well as general feedback that we've heard from the public. There will be future surveys to provide an opportunity for people to provide feedback on specific recommendations made by staff, work groups, focus groups, planning commission, county commissioners, and so on. So those will come later in the process. So for this survey, we've received 321 total responses, of which 62% of the respondents live in the county, 38% live in the corporate limits of a municipality. Majority of the respondents live in the Eldersburg area. Looking at the age brackets, most of the respondents are in the 61 to 70 age bracket, followed by 51 to 60, and then 41 to 50. So the survey's broken down kind of with 2 main questions. So what traits best describe Carroll County, and how could Carroll be a better place to live and work? And then each of those questions are attached to a subject. So obviously for this one is government. So what traits best describe Carroll County government? Fiscally responsible, good coordination between town and county elected officials, and focused development where services are available. And then how could Carroll County government create a better place to live and work? The number 1 answer being lower taxes. The least chosen answer, higher taxes to pay for needed services. Looking at rural character and agriculture, the best traits to describe Carroll County are kind of split evenly between rural heritage and landscapes, access to farm and fresh produce, and commitment to agricultural land preservation. Looking at ways to improve Carroll County based on agriculture, less development in the rural areas being the number 1 response, and then more investment in agricultural preservation being the least chosen answer. Community and leisure time. This might be kind of hard to read, but what traits best describe Carroll County when it comes to community and leisure time? The number 1 answer being low crime rates, followed by friendly communities and proximity to many other locations in the region. The least chosen answers being good retail and restaurants, good housing choices, and diverse communities. How could Carroll's community and leisure time create a better place to live and work? Kind of answers kind of all over the place, but the number 1 answers being more biking, hiking, and walking trails, more housing that is affordable to the younger generations, more investment in parks and rec facilities. And then some answers that were not so popular, less housing, more housing variety, and more welcoming communities. So you can kind of see some difficulties with the survey. We have the same question kind of telling us two different things. A lot of respondents wanting more housing that is affordable, but then not a lot of people chose they want more housing and more housing variety. So, looking at infrastructure and services, best describing Carroll County is kind of very similar in the choices they chose. Outstanding schools, quality emergency services, active senior and community centers, and strong community services and nonprofit partnerships. And then how could Carroll County infrastructure improve to create a better place to live and work, better broadband access, less congestion on major highways, better transportation and transit options. And then on the lesser side, more areas served by public water and sewer, expanding public water and sewer systems to support growth, and more physical and or mental health services. And then I believe this is the last one, economy and jobs. Obviously, the overwhelming response best describing Carroll County is the strong small and local business community. The least chosen answer for that is the strong tourism industry. How could Carroll County's economy and jobs promote a better place to live and work? The most chosen answer, better paying job opportunities, followed by a greater variety of job opportunities. The least chosen answer, hotel accommodations to support visitors and tourism. So though this was a multiple choice survey, there was an option to write out some of the respondents' thoughts. Generally, they revolved around these 4 ideas: less development and limit growth in the county, focus growth to areas served by water and sewer, and to be more strategic with development, and development should just overall not happen in the rural areas. Improve infrastructure, specifically congested roads and schools, a need for the county to improve communications with the community, and a lack of identity in Southern Carroll. So looking at all of the data that we've collected, the overall findings believe that the driving ideas that were created by staff, planning commission, and the county commissioners are overall supported by the respondents' answers, and are just a summary of a reminder of the driving ideas: housing options for all kinds, an economy that supports the local community, a commitment to rural Carroll County, infrastructure that meets the needs of tomorrow, and working together to plan the future. One that kind of didn't fall into any of them, but respondents also felt the county could benefit from more hiking, biking, walking trails, and a bigger focus on rec and parks facilities. So that's it for my presentation, but open for questions and discussion.
Nothing?
This is, as Hannah mentioned at the beginning of her presentation, we've gotten about 300 some odd responses. That's a fairly small number. We're continuing to try to push the survey out, and hopefully we'll get some additional responses. We did just want to give you sort of a sense of where things are right now. It's one tool, but one among many that we're using to try to gauge people's thoughts on different things. So I'll tell you about a few other options that we have in the works. Our goal is to try to create a whole menu of ways that people can engage with these topics, depending on what their interest level is and where they're most comfortable providing feedback. So we'll continue to have this survey as well as future surveys open to be one way to gather that input, but not the only way by any means.
So where is the link for that? It's on the website?
Yeah, so both surveys are available on the Carroll 2035 website. We also have a flyer and a postcard with a QR code to the website. So if you go to our website, it's just right on the front page. So we've been distributing those out to kind of get word out about the surveys. And then we also have been pushing the surveys out on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, my question is, we have a pretty large, we look at population and population growth. We have a lot of older people that are answering all the surveys, because they're the ones that take the time to do it. Is it something that maybe we should work with, like, Carroll Community College to try to get them to get students to answer it? I mean, high schoolers don't really know what direction they're going at that point, and most college students aren't either, but they have a better idea of what they're thinking. Because I'm sure their answers are gonna be vastly different than us,
That's what my comment
Yeah.
was gonna be, the ages of the
How
respondents.
do we get the 20 and 30-year-olds to
Yeah.
answer these questions?
Not
Yeah,
really.
good luck with that, right?
Yeah, not really surprising.
And it's
if
not
that
Facebook either,
results.
because
No.
most 20-year-olds
geezers
don't
like
use
us.
Facebook either.
Snapchat, all that stuff. But yeah, that's a great idea about the community college and the high schools or whatever, just to get we're saying they're gonna be dramatically different, but who knows?
It is interesting that once people live here, they're not really interested in having the county grow.
Yeah,
It's like, I'm here now, so stop the growth.
leave it alone.
Well, it's easy. Like I said, I mean, I was born and raised in Anne Arundel County, Glen Burnie, and people move from there to here because of, I mean, even where I grew up at my entire life, it's unrecognizable now because, oh, here's a postage stamp, put a house, put a this, put a that.
Yeah.
So people leave that, but the mindset has to be, we still need to grow or.
Well, I have 4 different age grandchildren, starting at 22 down to 15. So I will give you the pleasure of having them do the study.
I'm particularly interested in the 15-year-old. Yeah, let's
Be
do this.
careful what you wish for here.
Same, I got
Skateboard parks, here we go. Let's do this.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Thanks.
I'd like to say thank you, Hannah, for
Thank
being
you.
the smiling face in our meetings, and we're gonna miss that.
Terrific.
You will be missed.
Keep smiling. You guys will have your fun with this master plan.
Yeah, I'm sure wherever you're going can't be as much fun as us.
No, the meetings are much bigger.
Is this what you're doing? Yeah, I can
Yeah,
do
would
it.
you mind doing that for me? Okay. All right, so I'm filling in for somebody else on this presentation. Tiffany Fawcett from Comprehensive Planning has been working very diligently alongside Javier Toro, another planner in that office, to plan some public open houses as an additional way to get some feedback from folks. So the idea, it has transitioned, so you'll get through. The idea is that we have open houses. These would be in person, drop in at your convenience, afternoon into the evening, places where people can visit, one in each commissioner district, at the end of January into early February, to stop in, talk to staff, take a look at some of the same information that you all have been reviewing over the last several meetings, as well as some additional things. Get some questions answered, provide some feedback specifically on things that they'd like to see the master plan address, or even specific problem areas or pain points that stand out to them in their local community that, that we can be made aware of and try to address somehow, whether it's through the master plan or some other tool. So the reason why we're doing this is to basically take this discussion out to the community. As you heard, we have the survey. That's one way that people can give us information, but they have to go to that survey to give that. This is getting out into the community. Hopefully, we're identifying some locations where there's some foot traffic. So things like libraries and and community centers. We're still trying to pin down all of the locations and dates, but we do have a few areas or a few locations that we know are public locations that should get a decent amount of people just passing by. I'm gonna keep going down. Yeah, so one in each commissioner district and end of January, early February. It's really hard. I mean, some people will probably point out that that's tricky weather-wise potentially, but we're avoiding the holidays. It's usually a pretty downtime for people, so hopefully we'll hit a sweet spot there. We also are looking at doing these from, say, about 1 in the afternoon through 8 p.m. or something like that. So people who are available in the afternoon can stop by. Anyone who wants to stop by, say, on their way home from work or after dinner, would have that option as well. So I'll get into the how question next. A few things that we're still working on logistically. We're still trying to fill out this question of the best way to get the word out. Of course, we have to pin down our dates and our locations first. But we're looking at lots of different ways to communicate out about these open houses, to try to get as much participation as we can. We're looking at both kind of mass media marketing, as well as some very specific outreach to people that have been engaged in public processes like this before, folks who have come to these meetings and shared comments, for instance. If we have your contact information, we'll try to make some personal outreach to encourage people to participate. As I mentioned, we're still coordinating on venues and identifying partners who can help be present at these meetings as well. So it's not just planning staff, but people from allied agencies maybe that are able to help identify people's or answer people's questions and provide information where they can. So that's our coordinating staffing piece as well. And then, of course, the logistics of actually executing the open houses themselves. So a few notes on what people can expect at the event. We'll have a series of stations set up that are focused on those 5 driving ideas, but also some other stations related to just sort of background information, as well as specific ways for people to provide us with their feedback. We'll have handouts that people can take with them, contact information, background information. We'll have staff there at the events, so you'll be able to talk direct to a live person. We're also looking at trying to make it as family-friendly as possible, so some different activities that both the adults can engage in, as well as some things that that children could do. And we want to make sure that that all the sites are accessible, and that we have the kind of support that we need so that anybody can participate. So a few of our next steps, we're continuing to hone what these open houses will look like, and who to pull in to make sure they're good events and that they give us some opportunity to engage with people in a really meaningful way. We also want to be able to make sure that the data that we collect is usable and that we can share that back with you all. So figuring out how to use that information. And then 2 additional things is working on following up those open houses with some focus group conversations, so smaller groups that we can have a little bit more personal interaction with to get feedback. and then work groups, which is the next thing that I'm going to chat with you about. But before we get into that, I'll pause there and see what questions you have, suggestions you have. Once we get all the dates and locations finalized, we'll be sure to share those with you, and I would really encourage you all to stop by as many of the open houses as you can to hear what people are saying, see what we're sharing with them, and what some of the feedback is that we're getting.
Daphne, I'd certainly encourage the mayors of the different municipalities and the town councils to urge them to put the word out. I mean, they have monthly meetings, and I think it'd be a good idea for them to urge their citizens to incorporate it into this.
Yeah, thank you.
When do you think you'll have the final locations and schedules worked out, Daphne?
We hope to have them before the end of the year.
Nice, okay.
We're waiting to get confirmation on, from some of the commissioners to make sure that the locations that we're choosing are gonna work with their schedules, and also make sure that they didn't have other ideas for more suitable locations.
So hopefully by our January 8th meeting.
Yes, I hope so.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll continue to update you on that. The last thing I wanted to touch on was just this, this idea of forming some work groups. We've talked about this a little bit before in going over the work plan. And the idea with the work groups is to create basically advisory committees, which per your rules and rules of procedure and operation, you're allowed to establish by resolution to provide you with recommendations. Because we have the economic development land use study, we have the housing study, we've also had a lot of discussion around topics like agriculture and ag preservation. Those stand out as topics that we would want to have a group of people kind of dig into in greater detail than we can really dig into at your regular meetings. So I'm proposing that we use that, that ability to establish advisory committees that you all have, to establish work groups for definitely economic development, definitely housing, definitely agriculture, and potentially other things if they emerge. To really dig into those studies, those topics, and then come back with recommendations for things that work group suggests you take into consideration in the master plan. I have a draft resolution that I'll run. I need to get Liz's thumbs up on, but I can share that with you at our next meeting. And then if you all are good with moving forward with that, the other provision in your rules is that you can assign up to 2 commission members to serve on these different work groups as well. So we can try to get that ball rolling. And ideally, we'd be in the process of establishing those while we're doing these open houses, so we can kind of roll from one feedback and input opportunity into the next pretty seamlessly. But any questions on the work groups or what they would be doing that I can try to anticipate for our next discussion?
Who else would be in the work group? Staff, county?
Well, we would have staff serving as the facilitators and note takers and that kind of thing. And then we would come back to you with recommendations for folks to serve on the work groups. Some of them, we've already got, so for the housing study and the economic development and land use study, we had people who were actively involved in sort of putting those together and reviewing them. So we may be able to build off of folks that have already been involved. For a conversation around ag, I think we've gotten a couple of suggestions already for folks to reach out to, but we would come back to you with some suggested participants and make sure that you guys are on board with making those invitations.
So, just so I'm clear, so our role, advisory role, is to oversee the work group?
So we would look for 2 people to serve on each of those work groups. So 2 of the planning commission members to serve and act as sort of a bridge. Ultimately, that work group would come back to the full commission with their set of recommended actions to consider for the master plan. Staff would be working as kind of the coordinator of those work groups.
Okay.
So each work group would have 2 separate, not
Yeah,
2 for all 3.
2 each.
each,
Yeah,
yeah,
2
2 each, yes.
Okay. Got it. I'm slow. Hunger must be setting in.
Other questions? Okay. We'll follow up with a draft resolution and some more details at our next meeting.
Okay,
Good plan.
very good.